Hey gang, it is Wednesday. You know what that means? It's time for Humpday Happy Hour with the Dinks. Yes, it's Dennis in the Know Humpday Happy Hour. This is your backstage pass for current trends, politics, and education in the dental world. It is live, and as always, it's over a cocktail. I know what you're thinking. Is the drink that small, or is Jeff just really that big? Well, guess what? The drink's that small. We're doing a little Tawny Porto tonight for Hump Day Happy Hour. Little Sandeman 20-year-old Tawny Porto. Was supposed to go to Portugal this year, but unfortunately that didn't work out, but looking forward to doing that again. Anyway, want to welcome you all to our Hump Day Happy Hour. As you know, we are here to bring you honest, vetted information. And as always, I am with some of my best friends in the industry. I'm with Dr. Jennifer Bell. I'm with this guy, Dr. Chad Duplantis, and we have an incredible guest tonight. Dr. Amanda Seay is with us, my neighbor from Charleston, South Carolina. As you know, we are all practicing dentists. We are all educators, and we're all business owners. And you know what our job is? Do you guys know what our job is?
Yeah.
What is it, Chad? This is a test. What is
God,
it?
I'm so stupid.
It's
Our
to
job
bring
is to bring
all of
you in the know.
you in the know.
We have an incredible guest tonight. My neighbor from Mount Pleasant, Charleston, South Carolina. Amazing dentist, amazing woman, amazing mom. Just one of the true leaders in dentistry. And I'm just so proud to call her a local colleague. Dr. Amanda Seay is with us. So we'll be interviewing her in just a few minutes. But first, JB, do you have any news for us?
Always.
Okay, let's do it.
Nothing quite as interesting, though, as the guy pulling his car with his teeth last week. That was,
well,
those don't come every week, you know.
I'm going to sip my port.
I appreciate that. Although I did appreciate Zuckerberg's post on the Camaro pulling out a tooth. And I thought how trusting that child was when he was convinced to tie his tooth by a string to the back of his dad's Camaro, and the Camaro pulled off. So I thought that took a lot of level of trust. But let's get right to the news and dig in a little bit on what's happening. First, we reported a few weeks ago, actually it's been almost a month now, about the FTC's look into non-compete clauses. There's a big push right now for them to remove a lot of the non-competes for employees. So certainly that directly impacts dentistry because, as many of you know, most dentists, if they're in group practices, associateships, or even in certain types of partnerships, we operate well within non-compete clauses for our practices. So they're looking at eliminating those altogether. The deadline was supposed to be very soon, actually this week. That's now been extended out to April 19th. So we have a little bit more time now for open comment period. That's for any individuals or organizations to gather their comments and thoughts pro or against the proposed regulations to change non-competes and what impact economically that might lend towards both small and large businesses. So we'll continue to watch that very closely. The University of Alabama has released the first national dental implant registry. I thought this was very interesting. I've always been a huge advocate of the fact that I feel like we should have a place where we could register the implants that we place on patients so that other dentists could go and search that information. How many times have you had a patient show up who had an implant that you couldn't identify? Patient got it 15 years ago. That doctor is either no longer in business or that records aren't accessible anymore. And we have to go through an arduous process of finding that out. That's not the sole purpose of this database. They're actually starting to try to track trends, successes and failures within the implant dentistry world. So they've solicited a handful of patients, actually several thousand now, to participate in the database so that they can track the outcomes, both looking from a prosthetic and biologic success and failure, so that they can start to build a database. There's a lot of pressure actually coming from the FDA looking at implant dentistry and failure rates within dental implants. So we're starting to build some actual scientific data, hopefully in an unbiased capacity, so that we can make some decisions, maybe hopefully start driving decisions for consumers as they receive implant dentistry. So that's happening out of UAB. So I thought that was interesting. The United States Air Force has applied for a self-healing dental composite patent. I know there's a ton of buzz in the composite world about regenerative materials, biocompatible materials, biomimetic materials, but the U.S. Air Force has just applied for a patent for a self-healing composite as well. So we will certainly watch that very closely. We're in the very early stages. Now the investigatory part will take place, but definitely an interesting submission from the United States government, military. And now an interesting turn of events in Maryland, where they have proposed legislation that children will be required at certain stages within their educational journey to complete dental examinations. This has not been approved legislation, but there is new proposed legislation coming out of the state of Maryland looking at requiring dental examinations prior to certain entry phases within the education system. I would assume it looks very similar to the vaccination requirements, which happen often at the elementary school age, again, at middle and high school entry points to check for those continued vaccinations. Looks like they want dental to be included with that as well. JAMA came out with an interesting article on high fluoride-based toothpaste, the 1.1%, the roughly 5,000 of 5,500 parts per million on the fluoride. We know them well. We probably have all prescribed them in our practices, but they're starting to want to ask for more scientific data on the actual effectiveness of using these products in our high-risk patients. So there's been a lot of data so far on the efficacy of using these products, but not as much on the effectiveness. So I think there's some call to action from this article to want to start to gather more scientific data on whether or not these prescription-based toothpastes are actually remineralizing decayed lesions and preventing new lesions from developing, to help justify and create parameters for prescription for those products. And they did highlight specifically that the use of those products as prescribed and also as written on the instructions was a key critical element to those being successful with the products. And if any of you have had experience with that in your own practice, you'll know that most patients don't often comply with the instructions listed on the box of any medication that they're given. Lastly, HPI came out with their updated statistics for February. We've always been watching that very closely. It's a great pulse check on what's happening on the ground. I know many of us already have our own assessments of what's happening in our daily practice operations, but the HPI either validates or creates a bit of a rift if that's not actually how you're practicing. But it was interesting to note that most clinicians now cite having left networks, which I think has been the first flip of that switch, where most doctors have indicated that they have left networks within the last 12 months. And it also seems that staffing continues to be one of the largest reasons why offices are not operating at full capacity. While they have rebounded back up to about 85% of occupancy levels, which is well over the 75 plus range that we saw about a year ago, they haven't reached back to full capacity yet. And most cite staffing issues and late cancellations and no-shows from patients being the highest two reasons why they are not operating fully. And with that, my stumbling at the end, that's the news.
We have an incredible guest tonight that I'm so excited to share with everyone out there. Chad, would you do the honor of introducing Amanda?
I would be honored to. And I think I met Amanda in maybe 2016, 2017, and I was asked to be on this forum at Seattle Study Club. And they asked me to be on this thing with Amanda and Drew Ferris and Jennifer Dubrow, and I was like, seriously, me? You know, what could I possibly bring to that table? So I was kind of like the JB in that situation. I just kind of talked a little bit while they did their thing, but it was amazing to watch. But you know, Amanda is just such an incredible person. For those of you that don't know her, she has a practice in Charleston. She is a leader in the dental industry. She's a leader and an advocate for women in the dental industry. She's been named the 11th most influential person in dentistry by Incisal Edge magazine. She is the 85th dentist in the world to earn the honor of fellow accredited member status with the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. And by the way, that's no joke. But where I see Amanda shine amongst many places is through her imPRES teaching with the ding dong that was on a little bit earlier. And, you know, Adamo would be nowhere without Amanda. No, but
gee, Chad, I don't know any other two guys that would be nowhere without their female backup.
That's true. That's very true. That's very true. But anyways, Amanda, it's awesome to have you. I know I didn't get through your entire bio, but you're impressive. So that's all there needs to be said. So
welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. I've got my happy hour cocktail. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for having
me. Mine says add for patience.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
What are you drinking?
A cab.
Nice cab.
Big and bold. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your journey in dentistry. And I know we'd be here probably all night if you told us what all it took to get you where you are right now. But what are you most proud of in dentistry? I forgot to also mention that you are an amazing wife and the mother of 4.
Yes.
4. Holy crap.
Yes.
All right. But tell us about yourself. Tell us about you and how you got to where you are right now.
I feel like I've shared this story a million different ways and in different forums and different formats. You know, there's nothing really remarkable about my journey other than, you know, like some people grow up and they have a friend that's a dentist or a family member that's a dentist, or they have something, they have this plan. And I actually was a very different person than I am today. I mean, if you knew me in high school, I was pretty unorganized, not focused. I wasn't a stellar student. And, you know, I got to a place, I won't bore you with all the details, but I got to a place where I went to dental school, lived on my own, lived in New York City. And it was a moment of just like, am I going to change my life and have a different life than the one I've always had? Or do I just keep being the victim of, you know, what I've grew up in my childhood? So it's like, I just did a switch and I became, just more focused, more organized. Again, I wasn't like this amazing student in dental school or anything. I was okay. But I think just coming out of school, I just was trying to stay on top of things. Met some incredible people at Seay, like Tom Trinkner, another South Carolinian. Jeff, you know Tom?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I
Very
met,
well.
yeah, I met him my first year out of dental school at an AACD conference. And so he had a huge impact on me where, you know, I just said, well, he's doing great dentistry. I should just ask him what he's doing and do the same thing. And that's literally how simple my formula was. It wasn't like I had some strategy. I just said, well, I'm just going to emulate people that I know are already doing it and doing it well. So I went to Pankey because he went to Pankey. I joined the AACD because he was on the editorial board there. And I just kind of, you know, went through the motions, but I never had, I guess, the vision of the next step. Like if you would have said out of school, did you want to teach? Did you want to lecture or publish? Like never, never, never. None of those things were ever on my radar. But just taking the steps necessary to be better at what I do. I've crossed paths with people that have changed my life, that have encouraged me, that have pushed me, and then opportunities arise. And one thing led to another. And so I've been lecturing now probably 12, 15, 14 years. But the last 5 have been really with just Adamo, and it's been life-changing, really, you know, because when you think about getting on a plane and going to some study club where people didn't really pay to come see you, some company paid for their lunch, you know, and they're just there for the free lunch, and you've worked 200 hours on this presentation and they're falling asleep while you're talking, and I'm getting on a plane away from my family. It's really, really difficult, you know, and I got to a place of being burnt out. Sorry, that's my little Pomeranian.
Oh, fine.
You know, Asians love little dogs, so we have a little Pomeranian.
Mine's barking at the same time, so I'm like, is that my dog or yours? So there you go.
So anyways, you know, so it's just serendipitous how it all happened, how Adamo and I came together. It still blows our mind how quickly it's grown, but we love what we do, and it's just been amazing. And the best part is just the people that we meet that we continue to get to develop these relationships with. So I'm not just seeing them one time, I'm seeing them over and over again and at different places. So it's been incredible.
Do you
So-
see?
Oh,
Go
I
ahead.
was going to
Go
say,
ahead, Tibby.
just to piggyback on that really quickly, because I think you brought up an excellent point. You've got things like the COIS courses, which are that more intimate feel, and then you reflect back on study clubs and other things where maybe there's less investment on the doctors. It feels like there's this trend kind of moving towards these more intimate educational experiences, and even younger doctors just really actively seeking out very specific key things that they want to learn and understand. Is that the feedback you're getting from your courses?
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's just been a surge over the past few years, you know, 5 years ago or more, I felt like we were hitting that kind of when Instagram just blew up and people just wanted to learn things on YouTube as fast as they can, you know, like get the information short and sweet. And then all of a sudden, I just feel like there's been a shift. There's been this shift of these young clinicians too. I mean, not older, but spending high dollar on CE in a small environment. And they're not just taking one class, they're going together in packs and they're going through curriculums. They're graduating from this place, from that place. I mean, and so it's really it makes me feel so good as an educator that our profession, because for a while I'm like, oh my gosh, is everybody just going to watch a YouTube video and think that they know how to do everything? So I feel like we're kind of coming around full circle and it's coming back. And I hope that it stays that way because that's how I learned. And it was what really has grown me and everything that I do. So
well, Amanda, I think you would agree with this too. And, you know, I got to know you through COIS and I think one of the things that we notice when we go to a continuum like COIS is that the things that can't be afforded with online education and that YouTube learning, like you talked about, is that sense of community that you feel, that you start to form these friendships where you can kind of let your hair down and, well, I don't have that much hair, but you could let your hair down and say to the person next to you, do you know what the heck he was talking about? Because I don't know what the heck he was just talking about. And you form those kind of relationships where you can kind of be yourself, you can be vulnerable, but you have somebody that you can text or that you can email along the way when something's just not making sense. And I think we're seeing a new generation kind of learn that those relationships and the camaraderie is really important. Would you agree with that?
100%. I mean, I think about how you and I know each other. I mean, we both, you know, the times we both are from the COIS Center, but we didn't bond sitting there and lecture. We bonded over times of being together and sharing dinner, sharing drinks, having conversation, and sharing parts of our lives together. I mean, those are the things that bind you and connect you, right? So I hope that everybody keeps doing that. That's where I've all my friendships and the people that push me to accomplish the things that I have. I wouldn't have done it on my own if I didn't have those friendships that I've met through going to CE, going to these meetings, all good stuff.
And I love that I see every time I see you somewhere, you have this group. I call them the Wonder Women, that y'all all follow each other around and everything. And I
Yeah.
mean that in a great way, because you're all miraculous people. But I can see the bonds that have been made through this education. And one thing that I want to point out, and I've heard this about you, and we've talked about this in the past, is that you focused on continuing education right after you graduated from dental school. It wasn't I'm going to go into practice and I'm going to see how it works, then I'm going to figure out what works for me. I mean, you started telling that story tonight. I love that. And that's my charge to new graduates, because I got into the game late. I mean, I was probably 5 or 6 years out, and then I was like, okay, I'm ready to get back into education. I was maybe burnout on education.
Yeah.
You just thrived in it. And I wish that more people would do that when they get out of dental school. Set some money aside, or I mean, some people even take out loans. That's fine too. But push yourself, go into continuing education, take a curriculum,
Yeah.
go to a center, figure out where your place is, and just really meet people and thrive. And I
Yeah.
love what you've done.
I definitely didn't have the financial means to take all the courses and the CE that I took, but I took out, loans. And I mean, I opened up a practice. I got pregnant. I mean, we certainly did not have the income to afford it, but I just had to keep the faith that I was doing the right thing for my career. And I believe that the financial success will come when you do the right thing. I mean, I do believe that. But the one thing I wish I would have done differently, because I did, Chad, jump full steam ahead and spend all my money on CE and graduate from all these places. But I wish I would have focused just as much on the business of dentistry. And that
I
is,
think we all do.
and that is something that I was so focused on, the clinical aspect of it, that the business was an afterthought, because I was just like, well, I'm doing good by the patients. I'm doing good by my employees. I'm doing good dentistry. So everything should be good.
We've all been there.
But there's just so much more to that. And having to kind of get into this hamster wheel, where I finally was like, okay, I need help to be able to do the dentistry I want to do, because I don't have the time. I don't have this. I don't have that. And so I finally got to a good place, but man, I wish I would have had a consultant or mentorship on the business aspect right from the get-go.
I love that. I completely agree. And you're not alone. As Jeff said, and I also alluded to, we can totally relate. Trust me, like on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I still need mentorship on it. That's why I love having this tribe of friends and yes, a lot of my friends are female. I have male friends too, but it's just incredible, because I think we're like-minded. Like, JB and while I can ask you guys things, there's things with women where I'm like, okay, like, you have kids, I have kids. How do you be the mom and take him to ballet practice and do this and do that? So there's a different level of being able to relate when there are women in your profession doing the same thing versus a man, because you don't compare yourself to anybody, but especially when I look at a man who's on the podium and traveling and doing all these things, and while he might have kids, I can't relate the same way I can relate to another woman who's doing it. So I think that's super helpful for male or female out there, to find people that connect with you, that are doing the same thing, that have similar phases in their life, or maybe they're in a different phase, but you want to prepare for that. And so pick their brain, ask them about their mistakes, what they would do differently. And that would have been so helpful, because I just felt so alone on an island almost. Like, I would go to CE and meet all these people and be like, yeah, I'm so charged up. And then I come home and it would be like, just doing this again by myself, Monday through Thursday.
Yeah.
So you need this kind of continual motivation, and have an accountability partner to help you with all that.
How
Well,
long?
Go ahead, JB. I'm sorry.
Well, I wanted to talk to her a little bit about the residency program that you've done with AACD, because I don't think a lot of people know that it exists out there. But if you can talk a little bit about it, what your experience was, pros and cons, and how that went, and where is it today?
Yeah, it's an amazing program. So if you are a fellow in the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry or an accredited dentist, you don't have to be a fellow, then you can be what we call a preceptor for a resident who wants to learn cosmetic dentistry. And so it's just like any residency program. You come in for, it can be a year or 2 years. It's mostly a 2-year program, and you study under another cosmetic dentist in their private practice. So it's like you're an associateship for a temporary amount of time, but you get to assist, you get to watch all these big cases, you get to learn the business aspect of it. So it's such a great program, and there's requirements. I mean, it's not just so open-ended. I mean, there's a certain number of cases that you have to complete during the residency and photograph and document. But I think it's a wonderful opportunity, especially for young clinicians coming out of school that, aren't sure what the next step is. And if they're interested in cosmetic dentistry, I think it's a great way to be able to work with somebody directly one-on-one and see all these cases. I mean, if I would have had that opportunity coming out of school, you better believe I would have jumped on it, because I was driving 2 hours as often as I can to Columbia, South Carolina, to watch Tom Trinkner work on cases. So to be able to be in his office all the time, day in and day out, and see how he talks to patients, see how he, treatment plans, how he delivers cases. I mean, that would have been just the best mentorship ever. So I highly recommend it. And I have several friends who have been preceptors. Adamo's on his second resident. And, of course, he always scores the jackpot for like the best residents ever. I don't know how that happened. But just saying, they're both female residents.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it would be safe to say, based upon the name being mentioned a few times, that Tom Trinkner was a very valuable mentor in your life.
Absolutely. He was the first mentor that I ever had without knowing I was looking for a mentor. He stumbled into my life in a way that I never planned. And I'm so glad that I sought it out and I kept in touch with him, because all the decisions that I made early in my career, had I not met him, I'm not so sure I would have gone to Panky. I'm not so sure I would have tried to get accredited, so I think the power of influence of strong leaders is so great. And so that's why, you laugh about me always being with this big posse. I want to give back to others the same experience that I gained from my great mentors, because when I was going through, there weren't a lot of women that I could lean on for mentorship, and Betsy Bakeman is one of my huge ones, but I didn't meet her till later on in my career. And I just think, my gosh, how wonderful it would be if we could all help each other to shorten the path of learning and the journey through dentistry, so that you don't have to stumble and fall as much as I had to figure out, how to get there faster and better. So it's been fun, and plus they're all my friends. So why not?
I think something that you talked about is really important too. I mean, you may not have realized that you were looking for a mentor, but something that you did that I think is so valuable is you looked at other people. You said, I want to be doing what they're doing. And I'm a self-help book fan. Like I read all kinds of self-help books. I listen to all other kind of business lectures and things, just because I love to hear different perspective. And there's something called the proximity principle, which is, if you want to do what other people are doing, surround yourself with the people that are doing whatever it is that you want to be doing. And because not only will you find mentorship in doing that, but you'll also make new contacts because of that environment that you've put yourself into. So, just going up and saying, hey, Tom, can I come up and shadow you for a little bit? And then just in those discussions, that little bit of talking that led you to get into Panky and more CE. How many connections did you make there that had a great influence on what you'd be doing? So, it's this thing that we just can't do via the internet. You can't you can't commit to the proximity principle. You can't be around those people that are doing what you want to do if you don't actually go somewhere to do it or be with people to be able to do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's like a spider web, it just kind of, everything has a connection. And I literally can point to everything that has happened in my dental career has happened because of going to a course or going to CE, meeting this person, meeting this lab technician. I mean, nothing happened because I just said, you know what? I want to publish an article, so I'm going to figure out how I'm going to do that. Or I want to lecture, so I'm going to do, I mean, I had none of that on my radar, or none of that on my vision board, but it was just one thing after another that happened. And before you know it, it's like, I can't believe this is where I am in dentistry. I would have never envisioned it for myself, but by just wanting to be better and do better and surrounding myself with the right people, these things have kind of unfolded for me.
Well,
So
tell
let's
us a little bit about, and I'm sorry, JB,
No,
but
go for it.
I
No,
wanted
you
to
go
find
ahead,
out.
Jeff.
Yeah, it's your
You
show.
do your-
We're just here
You
for
do
the
your thing, Jeff. You just keep going.
Yeah,
We're
listen, you got,
basically the ornaments
will
on
one
your
of you run
Christmas
out and get me
tree.
another bottle of port? Because these little glasses go by quickly. No, I want to know more about imPRES, what you're doing with Adamo, what kind of courses you're offering, because, I think it's such a valuable thing that you're talking about, bringing people together in a good, small, conducive learning environment. So we just tell everyone out there, what kind of courses you're doing. I know a little bit, but everyone out there, I'm sure, would love to hear more. Tell us more about what you're doing and how they could get involved with that.
Yeah, so imPRES is a pretty full aesthetics curriculum. It's all hands-on. So it's 2 days. We do it in Charleston, and we have 5 different courses. We have 2 different composite courses. One's an injection mold course. We have a veneer preparation course. We have a photography course, and we have a rubber dam isolation course. And so everything is 2 days with some lecture, but heavy hands-on, because the goal is for you to come back the following week and be able to implement what we teach you. And the big part of why we wanted to do imPRES as well is that we wanted to share with everybody what we do in our practice, irrelevant of sponsorships or anything else. So we don't have any sponsorships from any company. So every product that we talk about, we have several materials. So when we do composite, we don't have one, we have like 6 different types, and we're choosing all of our favorite things. So you're getting, opinions from what we love to use in our practice. We show you how we use it. You get to take it home with you to use the following week. And I think that's our ability to be authentic about how we really do our dentistry, because sometimes when you're lecturing for a company, you're limited, right? You kind of have to say, I'm using XYZ products from XYZ company. And we know that we don't all use one product from one company. We use lots of different products. So we selected only our favorites, the most wanted list for us. And hopefully it shows. And I think people appreciate that, oh, wow, they're using this polisher from this company and this composite from this one. But anyways, it's a pretty well-rounded aesthetics curriculum. I think no matter the type of practice that you have. So maybe you don't do a ton of composites, but I think you could probably do some photography, or you can do the veneer preparation course. So we kind of offer a little bit for everyone.
Yeah. So could you go through where they would start and where they would finish? I know you said it's a curriculum, but do you have a recommended order, or is it just...
And it's interesting you said that, Chad, because we don't, right? So you can take any course and it's independent of the other. Although I will say that I feel like everybody needs to learn how to take good photos.
Yes.
because, you know, the big part about when we do the veneer preparation and smile design, you need photography to do a lot of the smile design. So that's kind of a must. And then even in a photography course, when we talk about shade selection and everything, we talk about the use of photography and some tips and tricks. So while it's not required, I think photography is a really key piece that everybody probably could benefit taking that course before you take others.
I love it. And what is the web address? Because I'd like to put it in the comments below.
Yeah, it's imPRES with one S, IMPRES courses.com.
All right, I'm typing it as we speak.
So would it be your recommendation for me to lose my Polaroid at this point?
Stop it. You're not using a Polaroid. I know you're not.
I don't know. If we put my photos up next to yours, mine would absolutely look like a Polaroid.
No.
I promise that.
It's crazy how good a picture you can get with your intraoral all the way across the room. And you just start snapping.
Now, how often do you all do these courses? Because I know they're in Charleston. We happened to crash one of your
oh my gosh, totally did. That was our inaugural meeting, y'all. That was the
craziest thing ever. That was the craziest thing ever. You have to tell everybody so they know what the heck you're talking about.
So in fairness, let me tell it from my perspective, because that really was an odd weekend. So I had gotten a call from Jeff to start. They were going to start this thing, and if I would come on and, you know, be a part of, like, do kind of guest appearances, like what I did tonight, but on like on a on-call basis, like, will you come on this month or whatever? And then
you were never our call girl.
I might have been. Maybe. And so the first episode went, and I watched it, and then they did fine. And then they asked me to come on for maybe the second or third one. And then the next thing I knew, I was coming on more frequently, and it was sort of kind of developing on its own, getting a bit of a life on its own. So then these two were like, hey, come meet us in Charleston. We're going to meet at the attorney's office. We're going to make this thing official. And so that was really probably only the second time I had ever met Chad in person. And we were there the night celebrating with your course attendees, which we actually saw several of them at AARD. And they were like, oh yeah, we saw you that night in Charleston. We were basically becoming a business that very day. Making it official. We got married that day.
I know. That's really cool. Congratulations, guys. I love what you're doing too. And just being fun.
Thank you. And you know, I will never forget meeting you all that night. It was so fun. I mean, I knew both you and Adamo, and obviously, we're just going to go ahead and say it. We were starstruck hanging out with you two. Yeah. But my memory of that night is that it was like in the height of COVID. Everybody's kind of like, let's go back to classes, but let's not get near anybody. Well, we're all going crazy. And Jeff orders me a drink, and this sales representative walks up and goes, what are you drinking? And I'm like, it's an old fashioned. She goes, I've never had one before. She grabs it and starts drinking out of my drink. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no.
We're all gonna die.
No.
Everybody's gonna die.
My wife is like, if you shared a drink, don't get on the plane to come back home.
I know.
No.
But it was
I actually
crazy.
Found it so refreshing. Like,
it was so
that was
refreshing.
Probably one of the first outings being with other people I had since COVID, like actual dental professionals.
Yes.
I left it just high on life. I was so refreshed. I was like, yes, people in community again.
I know.
And we ran into somebody else too that we ran into
Aaron Elliott
on the street, just walking down the street. Yeah.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy weekend. Are your courses always in Charleston, Amanda?
Yeah, so we do have a course at the Coy Center twice a year.
Okay.
And it's kind of a combination. It's not one course. We kind of put one course and pulled a few elements from the other courses. So it's kind of a fusion of a few courses together, and it's 3 days. So we have that out at the Coy Center. But yes, it's always in Charleston.
Okay. So Adamo has succumbed to your majesty in Charleston and said, I will be in Charleston for your courses. Good.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I have 4 kids. He doesn't have kids. He just got married.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and when we got together and I told him, I said, you know, I don't want to travel. I already travel a lot. I mean, let's be honest. Even though the courses are in Charleston, it's like, I mean, you know, I've seen you guys in Chicago or Aruba. I mean, it's like constant. But it does make it more manageable to have our own course where, you know, inventory comes in. Somebody's got to count the inventory, store it, get it set up. I mean, to not have a home base. So it's either going to be New York or Charleston. And I just thought that Charleston, having won all these awards, being a great city to visit and everything else, like, why not? Let's have it here.
And,
I mean, who wants to
you
go to
can
New York?
probably charge $2,000 less tuition just by having it in
That's
South Carolina versus New York.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
It's more expensive in New York. And then in the fall in New York, it's freezing too. So there's that.
Well, I definitely want to do an imPRES course, and I'm thinking maybe the photography one is where I'll start.
I think we all 3 have to go now because
it's so fun. We would
I'm
have
taking it with an intraoral camera. Jeff's doing it with his Polaroid. Chad is doing an etch-a-sketch. Like he's doing etch-a-sketch.
It's an etch-a-sketch.
Like he's turning it and he's really good at it.
It's really hard picking up chroma with an etch-a-sketch. Yeah.
The value is way off. Way off. So we'll just need to all come together. So what other projects do you have in the works? Because people want to know where to find you and what you're up to.
Well, I was trying to aim for the end of last year to launch, but I have a member site coming out. It's definitely coming out this year because I'm halfway through all the filming of the content and everything. But it's a subscription-based membership where you can come in and I'll share with you. I walk through cases, tips and tricks. I have lectures online, but also just things that members exclusive access. Like I have a lab coat line coming out, which is really exciting. It's super cute. I'll send you a lab coat when it comes out.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So just, you know, different projects and just insight into, you know, because I tried to figure out a way. I get messages all the time on Instagram, and I really want to try and answer these people, but it gets really difficult, you know, because it's like, I don't want to be short and curt, but sometimes they're like, what do you recommend I do in this case? I'm like, okay, I can't answer all these things, you know, with all the messages I get. So I'm like, you know, if I have a site where just every time I have a case, I can walk through it and just the logistics of like, what do I look at? How do I treatment plan it? What's my lab communication? How do I pick my material choices? That I think when you can see how I do it over and over, and it's not always perfect, you can see the challenges, the mistakes. I think that's where hopefully a lot of the questions and the learning value will be received instead of it'll be more effective too than me giving you a one-line answer on IG, you know, question. So,
and you can see the application of it
that's
as
right.
opposed to it just being, you know, a verbal direction.
Yes.
How cool. I also love that manufacturers are wanting to talk to female doctors to come up with an alternative lab coat or other things that are a little more feminine or, you know, just more in our wheelhouse, if you will.
Yes, for sure. And, you know, I used to not wear scrubs ever until COVID. Like I used to wear like nice black slacks and like nice shoes and a cute lab coat. And then when COVID hit, it's like everything changed in the world, right? I was wearing like, I mean, headgear and then a million face masks and this and that. And then when the restrictions started lifting, I got rid of some of that, but I still wear scrubs. I still wear sneakers. And I just feel kind of like, bleh. You know, I want to get back to being comfortable, but looking cute in the same process. So that's the goal.
Chad and I had this same exact conversation.
I knew it.
Like wear black slacks, a little cinch top, and little cute lab coat, and that just went by the wayside. And I'm ready to feel cute again too.
I know. I used to wear heels. I don't do that anymore, but I mean, I could find cuter shoes than sneakers to wear that are still comfortable.
Hey, I will tell you what, I am not giving away doing the laundry at the office and walking in gym clothes and leaving in gym clothes every day. I love it. Putting scrubs on when I get to the office. And, but the worst is like I'll walk in a pair of gym shorts and a gym shirt and, the hygiene's ready for their first check. And I'm like, I walked in there one time in my shorts and t-shirt and I'm like, oh, I forgot to change. Hold on just a second. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to quit doing
first
that. At
patient that never knows what they're going to get.
Yeah.
So,
well, what if there were scrub pants that looked like scrubs for men?
Right.
Were like slacks and super comfortable, right?
I think there's a market for like Lulu and Vuori if they went into
right.
like
but I would like it not at that price point because of the crap I get on it.
Yeah.
Like they need to be
sure
a
Peter
little
Millar would do it if we
a little bit disposable because I drop PBS unmixed on it or whatever and it's toast. So
that's true. Mm-hmm.
That's why I quit wearing nice clothes because I got bleach on one and doing endo and a few things. And you're like, I can't afford this habit. I have to do something different.
I mean, so much spills on it before I even get to lunch. I mean,
right.
It's like, and then you get to lunch, spaghetti sauce. I mean,
oh my gosh, Chad, you're like an animal.
You get lunch, Chad?
I don't even eat lunch.
I can't tell you the last time I did have a lunch. So
no,
that mayonnaise just squirts out that Whopper like all over. Then you're done.
That's why we need that cute lab coat.
That's why we need that cute lab coat. That's right. And a cinch top.
Yeah. Well, Amanda, thank you so much for being with us tonight and sharing a little bit of your story. I mean, this has been so much fun, and I hope that we all can meet again, maybe at an imPRES course and hang out. And thank you for playing part in the punking of me with Adamo. And
I really got no part in that. That's unfair. They literally just said, "Oh, by the way, Adamo's going to come on, but Chad doesn't know." And I'm like, okay.
Well, I saw her at AARD and she was like, I think you are going to punk me. And I was like, no, we're not ever going to punk you. We would never punk you.
We don't
only punk Chad.
Yeah.
And then Adamo was getting on a plane and I knew he was flying out tonight. And I'm like, hey, aren't you supposed to go on Dinks with me? He's like, you're not supposed to know that. What I do.
Did you hear him when he came on? Because he wants to have a show just to air the inside stories.
Oh, he wants to get
a dateline.
Because I always, if you come to an imPRES course, I have really good content on Adamo and it's funny stuff. It's just like cute things that only special people get to see. So when you come to the course, I always show this little side of Adamo. Like I've got all this ammo on him. I have content for days, but I try and pick new stuff every time at the courses to show. But he never really, in all fairness, he never shows anything about me to poke fun at me because he's just so sweet that way. But he's like, oh, don't worry. He was texting me after he came on. He goes, it's going down. He's like, we're coming back on. He goes, and I got stuff on you. I'm like,
this is the format he's decided just to let it go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the comments just tonight, he put, I'm going to share the real story next time.
Oh yeah,
it's happening.
Well, just a very quick. So I was very fortunate in Aruba to be a student, and I sat through Adamo and Amanda's class, and the video of you. With Adamo being your dentist.
Oh, that's right.
It's priceless. It's because we can all imagine being there and thinking, what a complete shit show this is turning into.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The famous dentist that you see all over Instagram.
Correct.
And then you get to see him do dentistry on me and it's a complete hot mess.
I love it. I love
That's worth the price of admission right there.
And then you end up with a 1-star review at the end of it.
That's right. From you should give Adamo a 1-star review.
Everything was great, but at the end, guess what? Their Kleenex, they weren't scented.
Oh my God. I know.
Not that you're bitter or anything.
No.
No, you're
I
fine.
am a little bitter about that.
I know.
But we won't end on that note.
You have to respond to that bad review.
Of course, and that's what. But I've been, it's like one of those things where you want to jump on and do it right then, and then you start typing, and then you go, nope, I'm going to sleep on this.
Hey, Jeff,
Yeah.
show your vulnerability and throw the post out on Dentist in the Know, and let's see what kind of responses we get.
Oh, yeah, I would love to do that. That's actually a great idea.
Oh, that's good. I like
Yeah.
that.
And then tag like Lynn.
And then I'm going to
Towles
put
and
her
get
name and social security number on there too.
Yeah, do that too. Yeah, good
Date
idea.
of birth and her debit card.
Yeah. Well,
No.
thank you so much, Amanda, and we appreciate you staying up because I know it's late on the East Coast, which they're all there. I'm still on the Central Time Zone. Yeah, but yeah, thank you very
It's
much.
4 a.m. here.
I know.
Yeah,
It's like Italy. No,
We gotta get to bed.
she's got
Amanda,
4
thank
kids.
you so much.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
And that wraps up another podcast for Dentists in the Know. On behalf of Dr. Jennifer Bell, Dr. Chad Duplantis, and myself, remember that we've got a great profession, so let's make it a great day, Dinks.